A very good afternoon, everyone. We are here with an objective of announcing a new batch of public administration, which would be commencing at the end of this very month. And our objective here is to give you a brief idea as to what this optional is about, what are the specific aspects of public administration, what are the things that you should be expecting out of public administration, and what should be the strategy through which we work in order to in order to prepare for public administration. Okay, these are primarily the goals that we have. ठीक है, तो हमने क्या कहा? Primarily, we are here to announce a new batch, public administration batch, which is going to commence very soon by the end of this month itself. आपको ये ध्यान रखना है that the batch would primarily be in English. So the batch is completely in English. Whatever discussion we are going to have in English. This particular session would also be primarily held in English. Okay. Now, what exactly are the goals that we are going to take up today? See, we are going to talk about public administration. We are going to discuss, first of all, what exactly is this optional about? That means when we prepare for public administration, when we are discussing what exactly public administration is about, so there are a few things जो आपको लगता है कि this is primarily what the optional is about. Today, I am going to clarify to all of you what exactly is the content of public administration. We are going to do what? We are going to understand that very content. ठीक है? Secondly, we are also going to look at why part. That is, we are going to see why should we be choosing public administration as an optional. So there are some of you who are still in confusion. Should you opt for this optional as well, as it or not? Because this particular optional that is there, this is something which not all of us have a very good idea about. क्योंकि public administration is not something जो हम graduation या post graduation days में बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ते हैं. We do not necessarily, if you compare it to other things, other options like history, geography, etc., तो उसका एक specific background होता है. We have that as a background. We have read it. We have read about it in schools. We have read about it in college. And so on. But that is not the case with public administration. And if that is the case, should we opt for it or not? ये दिमाग में हमारे हमेशा एक क्वेश्चन होता है कि should we opt for this? क्या हमें public administration लेना चाहिए? And in today's discussion, I will tell you why we should be choosing. Why we should be choosing public administration as an optional. ठीक है? And then the third part of our discussion would be how. That means in the third part of our discussion, we would primarily be discussing that when we have chosen public administration as an optional, how we prepare for it. what is the aspects of our syllabus that we focus upon, what are the aspects of the syllabus which UPSC tends to primarily focus and ask questions on. All this aspect is what we are going to discuss. Clear? So, three parts of our discussion. First, what. Secondly, why. And thirdly, how. Clear? This is primarily what our goal is. ठीक है? ये चीज ध्यान रखना. And at the last of the session, once we have completed this discussion, so all of your questions, if you have any queries related to it, अगर आपके कुछ specific questions हैं, आपको कुछ specific doubts हैं, then at the end of the session, I will be entertaining your doubts. I would be looking at the questions that you are that you have doubts on, and then I will be answering them. Okay. So those who are having certain questions, please wait till the end and we will be discussing your questions. We will try and answer your questions by that very time. Okay. Now, first of all, let's try and understand what is public administration optional. What is the optional about? Let's try and primarily understand that. ठीक है, यहां से हम अपने डिस्कशन को शुरू करते हैं. पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एज एन ऑप्शनल है क्या? See, every optional primarily has two papers. Paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 and paper 2. These are the two specific parts or the two specific papers that is there with every optional. Similarly, public administration also has two papers, and in the very first paper, the content of it is theories, organization, thought, etc. Paper 2 is primarily what we call as Indian administration. What we call as Indian administration. That means it is paper 2 where we study about public administration in India. ठीक है, जो administrative structure है of the Indian administrative system. How does union government function? What are the specific important positions there? What are the state important positions of the state government? How district administration functions? All of it is primarily what we study as a part of paper 2. Okay? That is what we study as a part of paper 2. Okay? So, primarily two things, paper 1 and paper 2, and paper 1 is theories, organization, thought, etc. Now, ध्यान से आपको समझना है कि what exactly is the content of paper 1. Let's start with understanding of what paper 1 is about. देखो, paper 1 of public administration is about how public administration as a discipline has evolved. देखो, public administration in comparison to the other disciplines, जैसे हम फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, बायोलॉजी, हिस्ट्री, ज्योग्राफी एटसेट्रा, इन सारी चीजों की अगर हम बात करते हैं, सो इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट दे आर क्वाइट ओल्ड, मतलब ओरिजिन उनका काफी पुराना है. दैट्स नॉट द केस फॉर पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. Public administration as a discipline has primarily evolved from the year 1887. So it is from 1887 that public administration as an optional, as a discipline has evolved. Clear? और इसी वजह से what exactly is the background behind public administration as a discipline evolving? Primarily because it has evolved in America. So it has, no, it's a discipline जो कि अमेरिका में इवॉल्व हुआ है. तो अमेरिका में कौन कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट इवेंट्स हुए हैं, ठीक है, what are the important events that have happened and how these events have contributed to the evolution of the discipline. यानी जो इवेंट्स अमेरिका में हुए हैं उन इवेंट्स की वजह से पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में क्या चेंजेस आए हैं, है ना, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन किस तरह से एज अ डिसिप्लिन आगे बढ़ रहा है, कौन कौन सी नई बातें आ रही हैं, ये सारी चीजें अमेरिकन इवेंट्स पर बेस्ड है. ठीक है, ये सारी चीजें अमेरिकन इवेंट्स पर बेस्ड है. और पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन जो इंट्रोडक्शन टॉपिक है, इन द इंट्रोडक्शन टॉपिक प्राइमरली वी डिस्कस दिस. ठीक है, सो वी डिस्कस हाउ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एज अ डिसिप्लिन हैज इवॉल्व्ड. ठीक है, तो कौन कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट इवेंट्स हो रहे और उन इवेंट्स के बेसिस पर क्या चेंजेस और क्या डेवलपमेंट इज व्हाट इज द इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट ऑफ आवर डिस्कशन. ठीक है, पेपर 1 में हम और कौन कौन सी चीजें पढ़ते हैं. पेपर 1 का दूसरा इंपॉर्टेंट कंटेंट होता है थ्योरीज का. जो इन माय ओपिनियन दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ आवर सिलेबस. ठीक है, दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ आवर सिलेबस. नाउ what you have to understand here is that when we talk about public administration, public administration में जो थ्योरीज हम पढ़ते हैं वो कौन सी थ्योरीज हैं? ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थ्योरीज. यानी हम इस पर्टिकुलर थ्योरीज में ये डिस्कस करते हैं दैट हाउ डज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन फंक्शन, how does an organization function and how to bring efficiency in the functioning of organization. Yani when we talk about any organization, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन किस तरीके से काम करता है, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स क्या होते हैं और एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को किस तरह से ज्यादा एफिशिएंट बनाया जा सकता है. हाउ can the organization be made more efficient? This is primarily what we study as a part of theories. Yes, there are different theorists who have contributed to it. ठीक है, बहुत सारे ऐसे theorists हैं जिन्होंने contribute किया है. Theorists like F.W. Taylor, Max Weber, ठीक है, theorists like F.W. Riggs. And there are number of thinkers that we primarily go through. ये एस्पेक्ट पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के सिलेबस का प्राइमरली मैनेजमेंट से ओवरलैप करता है. ठीक है, व्हाट डज इट डू? इट ओवरलैप्स विथ व्हाट? इट ओवरलैप्स विथ मैनेजमेंट. ओके, सो प्राइमरली व्हाट यू विल सी इज दैट दिस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट ऑफ द सिलेबस, it would be very easy for those students who have studied management in their, who have studied management in their in their background. If you have a BBA degree, if you have an MBA degree, any such thing, and you are willing to prepare for UPSC, in that case, if you want, or if you are looking for an optional which very much overlaps with what you have studied during your BBA or MBA days, in that case these things, these theories etc. that are there, they are primarily overlapping with that very idea. Okay? So that that is helpful for those students who have also prepared for management. Okay? Now पेपर 1 में और कौन कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स है? So paper in paper 1 we also read about something called as public policies. यानी हम ये पढ़ते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज कैसे बनाती है. गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज कैसे बनाती है. नाउ वी नो दिस दैट कि जो भी पॉलिसीज बनाई जाती हैं, जो भी लॉज बनाए जाते हैं, पॉलिसीज बनाने के लिए गवर्नमेंट जो कि है वो गवर्नमेंट इज द वन रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर इट. एंड सिमिलरली व्हेन इट कम्स टू लॉज, तो लॉज पार्लियामेंट बनाती है. नाउ इस पूरे प्रोसेस के हाउ डज इट वर्क? ठीक है, हाउ डज द पॉलिसी is conceptualized, how is the policy implemented, how is the policy evaluated, all of this along with certain theories, certain thinkers there हैं, उनका अपना opinion है कि what exactly are the important aspects, what exactly are the important aspects of policy making. That is primarily what we discussed here. ठीक है, इस चीज को हम यहां पर डिस्कस करते हैं. इसके अलावा we look at topics like personnel administration. पर्सनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इस टॉपिक में हम क्या पढ़ते हैं? We read about things like recruitment, ठीक है, ट्रेनिंग, प्रमोशन, etc. That means what we do is we read about how in the Indian bureaucratic system how men or how people are recruited. So if we talk about an IAS, how is an IAS recruited, or how are they trained, how do they get promoted? Clear? So जो भी एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो इंपॉर्टेंट पर्सनल है, यानी जो लोग इंपॉर्टेंट लोग हैं जो वहां पर काम करते हैं, उनका रिक्रूटमेंट कैसा है, कैसा होना चाहिए, ट्रेनिंग इंडिया में कैसे होती है, कौन से प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ऑल ऑफ दिस इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द डिस्कशन ऑफ पर्सनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. ठीक है. देन कम्स फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. Then comes financial administration. Now, financial administration, हमें पता है that जब भी हम किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की बात करते हैं, कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, किसी भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के काम करने के लिए एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट वेरिएबल की जरूरत है, और वो वेरिएबल है पैसा, दैट इज फाइनेंसेस. So in financial administration, we study about how the organization manages its finances. किस चीज के बारे में हम पढ़ते हैं? How an organization manages its finances. ठीक है? How an organization manages its finances. Along with it, we also discuss what? We also discuss certain specific important issues like इंडिया में बजट कैसे काम करता है, व्हाट इज द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ बजटिंग. सो बजट किस तरह से बनाया जाता है, बजट के लिए जो प्रोविजंस है वो क्या होते हैं, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बजट के लिए क्या लिखा हुआ है, जो प्रोसेस है बजट को पास करने का, हाउ इज दैट प्रोसेस वर्किंग. All of this idea is what we study here. In financial administration, we also discuss the different types of budgets. So different बहुत ही अलग अलग तरीके के बजट होते हैं over the past 200 years, over the past 200 years, there are a lot of, there are a lot of aspects that we know, there are a lot of aspects of budgeting जो cover किया गया है, और वो कैसे evolve हुआ है वो भी हम पढ़ते हैं. Now, in India, there are certain financial institutions that are there. Like, you must have heard, आप में से बहुत लोगों ने पॉलिटी पढ़ा होगा. You must have heard about Comptroller and Auditor General. You must have heard about parliamentary committees, है ना? You must have heard about Public Accounts Committee, Estimate Committee, etc. Now, how these organizations function? What is the role of the Comptroller and Auditor General? How does the government, how does the legislature keep a check on the governments, and how keep a check on government's funding? All of this is what we read as a part of financial administration. Clear? क्या क्या कहा मैंने? We start our public administration journey by looking at what are the important events that have happened in America, and those events have resulted into certain changes in how the discipline of public administration has evolved. We read about them in the introduction topic. Then we come to the theories topic, and in the theories topic we primarily discuss what? We primarily discuss how an organization functions and what are the important variables and what could result into more efficiency in the organization. We study about that aspect, we study that in our discussion of organizational theories. मैंने आपको ये भी बताया है that this is something which is very much overlapping with the management discussion. तो जिन लोगों ने मैनेजमेंट एज बैकग्राउंड जिन्होंने चूज किया, जिन्होंने बीबीए या एमबीए जैसे कोर्सेज किए हैं और वो यूपीएससी के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं, तो इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट यू विल फाइंड दैट मैनेजमेंट उनके लिए पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन थोड़ा आसान हो जाता है. तीसरी बात, पब्लिक पॉलिसीज, दैट इज गवर्नमेंट और गवर्नमेंट के पॉलिसी मेकिंग के जो स्टेप्स होते हैं, जो थ्योरीज हैं और जो पॉलिसी इंप्लीमेंटेशन का प्रोसेस है, ऑल ऑफ दिस इज व्हाट वी स्टडी हियर. पर्सनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इज अबाउट हाउ पीपल आर रिक्रूटेड इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. देखो, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डज नॉट वर्क विदाउट पीपल, इट डज नॉट वर्क विदाउट ह्यूमंस, है ना? कितने भी आप मशीन्स को ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ले आओ, लेकिन ह्यूमंस एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का सबसे डायनामिक एलिमेंट होता है. So what are the important concerns of humans in the organization? उसे हम पर्सनल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में पढ़ते हैं. फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में हम एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड द मनी दैट द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन यूजेस, व्हाट इज द मैनर इन विच इट डज दैट, बजट क्या है, कंट्रोलर एंड ऑडिटर जनरल, इंडियन बजटिंग सिस्टम को किस तरीके से टेकअप किया जाता है, ऑल ऑफ इट इज व्हाट वी स्टडी इन फाइनेंशियल administration. Clear? Next, there are topics also like development administration or development dynamics. What do we study here? In the topic development dynamics, primarily the goal that we have is to study the process of development. यानी development किस तरीके से टेकअप किया जाता है, उस प्रोसेस को हम पढ़ते हैं. वी रीड अबाउट द प्रोसेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. तो आप मोस्ट ऑफ यू, आपको पता होगा डेवलपमेंट को जिस तरीके से हम आज देखते हैं और डेवलपमेंट को जिस तरीके से आज से करीब 50 साल या 60 साल पहले देखा जाता था, दे आर नॉट द सेम. देयर यूज्ड टू बी अ टाइम वेयर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ was equated to development. Economic growth was equated to development. Today that is not the case. Today development is looked at from a more qualitative and a multi-dimensional perspective. उसे समझते हैं. हम different theories of development discuss करते हैं. हम यहां पर state का role in development, women and developmental issues, और साथ ही साथ the very theory of anti-development thesis. यानी कुछ ऐसे स्कॉलर्स हैं जिन्होंने डेवलपमेंट एज एन आइडिया को क्रिटिसाइज किया है. So that is primarily what we call as anti-development thesis. एंटी-डेवलपमेंट थीसिस. तो ये एंटी-डेवलपमेंट थीसिस किस तरीके से जो स्कॉलर्स है उनका क्या कहना है, व्हाई आर दे क्रिटिकल ऑफ द इश्यू ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, इस एस्पेक्ट को हम यहां पर पढ़ते हैं. ठीक है. देन अ टॉपिक रिलेटेड टू दिस इज कंपैरेटिव पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. Comparative public administration. What do we study here? Primarily, we look at comparing between administration of different countries. Okay? And the theories related to it. Clear? Then there is a topic called as administrative behavior. Administrative behavior, where we study about important administrative behavior within the organization. जैसे हम यहां पर things like motivation, decision making, communication, etc. हम प्राइमरली इन इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स को हम यहां पर पढ़ते हैं. क्लियर? तो जो ये पूरा जिस्ट है that I have just talked about in the last 2 slides of paper 1. Now, what you want to understand or what you need to understand here is that public administration is generally a very important, it's something which generally is not what we conceive of. क्योंकि पेपर 1 जो पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का है, the paper 1 consists of primarily a study of organization. So how does the organization function? How different aspects of organization we study that. How decision making is taken up in the organization, we study that. How are finances managed in an organization, we study that. How people are managed in an organization, we study that. How policies are being made and how government intervenes in the policy making process, we study that. That means if you look at public administration paper 1, public administration paper 1 is generally something which very much it is very much correlated to the management topic, because management is about the study of organization, and similarly public administration paper 1 is also something which is it's more or less a study of organization. इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कोई भी ऐसा इंडिविजुअल जिसने मैनेजमेंट पढ़ा नहीं है वो इन बातों को समझ नहीं सकता है. पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पेपर 1 एक कॉमन सेंस पेपर है, यानी उन लोगों के पास जो एक बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कौन कौन सी चीजें इंपॉर्टेंट है और किस तरीके से ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को मैनेज करना चाहिए, अगर आप इस कॉमन सेंस अंडरस्टैंडिंग के साथ चीजों को पढ़ते हो, आपको चीजें पेपर 1 में काफी आसान लगेंगी. ठीक है. नाउ व्हेन इट कम्स टू पेपर 2, as I said, paper 2 is about what? Paper 2 is about Indian administration. तो ये वो पेपर है जो जनरली हम पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को जब हम सोचते हैं पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑप्शनल के बारे में, तो वी जनरली कंसीडर पेपर 2, that is when we are choosing an optional, and specifically when we are thinking about public administration as an optional, what do we expect from public administration? What we expect from public administration as an optional is that हमारे दिमाग में यह बात होता है that we are going to study how the office of the district collector functions, what is the role of the superintendent of police, how law and order functions, how the union government functions. यूनियन गवर्नमेंट में जो इंपॉर्टेंट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव पोजीशंस होते हैं, हाउ डू दैट दे फंक्शन. हाउ डज द स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन फंक्शंस, हाउ डज लोकल बॉडीज फंक्शन. दिस इज प्राइमरली व्हाट we think of whenever we are thinking of public administration as an optional. What you have to understand is that जो आपने सोचा है that is a part of paper 2, because this is exactly what we study in paper 2. So in paper 2, what are the topics that we study? In paper 2 we study about union administration. In paper 2 we study about union administration. In paper 2 we study about state administration. About district administration, about local bodies, urban and रूरल गवर्नेंस, है ना. दैट मीन्स हम यहां पर क्या करते हैं, व्हाट वी स्टडी इज वी स्टडी अबाउट यूनियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. सो वी स्टडी अबाउट ऑल द इंपॉर्टेंट ऑफिसेस दैट आर there in union or at the center. So we study about obviously the prime minister, the president, the council of ministers. We study about the PMO, prime minister's office. We study about central secretariat, etc. These are the offices which we study. This is what is union administration. Secondly, if we talk about the state administration, so here what do we study? The office of governor, chief minister, council of ministers, ठीक है, चीफ सेक्रेटरी, इस तरह के ऑफिसेस के बारे में हम पढ़ते हैं. Thirdly, if we talk about district administration, so office of the district collector, ठीक है, office of the district collector and the different functions that the office of district collector performs, वो पढ़ते हैं हम. When we talk about local bodies, we read about what? We read about, in local bodies, we read about how the urban local bodies function, how the पंचायती राज इंस्टीट्यूशन functions. इन सारी चीजों को हम यहां पर टेकअप करते हैं. ठीक है. इसके अलावा द टॉपिक्स लाइक लॉ एंड ऑर्डर, the topics like civil services, financial administration, ठीक है. So law and order is about what? That is, if we talk about offices of superintendent of police, द वेरी फंक्शनिंग ऑफ पुलिस किस तरह से होता है, कौन कौन से इश्यूज हैं. यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड अबाउट थिंग्स लाइक पुलिस रिफॉर्म्स. ठीक है, काफी ज्यादा डिस्कशन होता है कि पुलिस रिफॉर्म्स क्या है और इंडियन पुलिस में जो रिफॉर्म्स हमें करने की जरूरत है, व्हाट एग्जैक्टली आर द रिफॉर्म्स दैट आर रिक्वायर्ड टू बी टेकन, है ना. दैट इज ऑल अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर डिस्कशन ऑफ दिस टॉपिक. सिविल सर्विसेज, जैसा मैंने आपको बताया, हाउ रिक्रूटमेंट इज टेकन अप. ऑल इंडिया सर्विसेज में किस तरह से रिक्रूटमेंट होता है, ट्रेनिंग कैसे होता है, ऑल ऑफ दिस इज व्हाट वी स्टडी हियर. फाइनेंशियल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, इंडियन बजटिंग, इंडिया में बजट कैसे काम करता है, व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट हियर. ठीक है, व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ द कंट्रोलर एंड ऑडिटर जनरल हियर. ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ दिस इज व्हाट वी स्टडी एज अ पार्ट ऑफ पेपर 2. एंड वन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक इज एवोल्यूशन. यानी हम ये पढ़ते हैं कि जो इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आज हमें नजर आता है, हाउ हैज इट इवॉल्व, हम ये पढ़ते हैं कि इफ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, सो इंडिया हैज बीन अ कॉलोनी ऑफ द ब्रिटिश फॉर द लास्ट, no, for the before 1947 for approximately 200 odd years. So in that case, how has British administration impacted India, है ना? So Indian administration जो आज हमें नजर आता है, how has that Indian administration evolved? मौर्यन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कैसा था, अर्थशास्त्र में क्या लिखा हुआ है, मुगल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन कैसा था, all of this is primarily what we study here. ठीक है? So paper 2 is primarily how Indian administration functions. ठीक है? हर एस्पेक्ट ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, चाहे वो फाइनेंस की बात हो, चाहे डिस्ट्रिक्ट की बात हो, चाहे यूनियन की बात हो, स्टेट की बात हो, लोकल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की बात हो, all of this is how we try and do what? This is how we study paper 2. Okay, this is the content of paper 2. See, in brief, what I have informed you is what exactly is public administration as an optional. The reason is that when most of you are deciding your optionals and when you are thinking of public administration as an optional, most of you have no idea what public administration, what is the syllabus and what are exactly the things that you are going to read here. You don't have any idea. And therefore, what we do is most of the time if we are taking a decision on our optionals, we tend to generally depend upon someone else's wisdom. मेरे कहने का मतलब यह है कि जब हम ऑप्शनल के बारे में डिसीजन लेते हैं तो जनरली हम इस तरीके से डिसीजन लेते हैं कि किसी और ने क्या डिसीजन लिया है. अगर मेरे दोस्त ने कोई ऐसा ऑप्शन चूज कर लिया तो मैं भी वही चूज कर लेता हूं. अगर किसी पिछले साल के टॉपर का यह ऑप्शनल था तो मैं भी वही ऑप्शनल ले लेता हूं. दिस इज नॉट द राइट वे. यह सही तरीका नहीं है. जब भी आप ऑप्शनल पेपर के लिए डिसीजन लेना है तो आपको एग्जैक्टली यह पता होना चाहिए और आपको यह आइडिया होना चाहिए कि एक ऑप्शनल पेपर जो आप चूज कर रहे हो उसका कंटेंट क्या है. व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज द कंटेंट ऑफ द ऑप्शनल दैट यू आर चूजिंग, एंड the content of the optional is what we have just mentioned. Paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 of public administration is more like management. Why? Because management में भी आप organization के बारे में पढ़ते हो, and what you study here is also more or less like management, है ना? But it is very simple. That means when I say management, मैं आपको सिर्फ एक आइडिया देना चाहता हूं कि what do I mean? It does not mean you actually study management. आप बस कुछ ऐसी चीजें जैसे कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कैसे फंक्शन कर रहा है और कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स है, दैट इज व्हाट वी स्टडी एज अ पार्ट ऑफ पेपर 1. That is what we study as a part of paper 1. Paper 2 is what? Indian administration. So paper 2 is about study of how India functions, how the Indian administrative structure functions, how at the different levels, because India is a federation, and hence at different levels the administrations that are there, how does that administration function. All of this is what we study in public administration. ठीक है? तो एक आपको रफ आइडिया होना जरूरी है कि पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन जो ऑप्शनल है वो ऑप्शनल कैसा है. What is exactly the content of that optional which I have just provided. ठीक है? Now, दूसरी बात, when we talk about public administration, the second and the most important question is why? Why should we choose public administration as an optional? Why should we choose public administration as an optional? Okay, so let's try and answer this. Brijesh, I will entertain your questions at the end. Okay, let me just complete what I have to say. Approximately 15-20 minutes I will be taking additionally. उसके बाद मैं आपके क्वेश्चंस को एंटरटेन करूंगा कि व्हाट आर द क्वेश्चंस दैट यू हैव. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस रिलेटिंग टू ऑप्शनल्स और पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, आई विल स्पेसिफिकली डील विद इट. ओके. Yes, we do read about Kautilya as well, but we don't study Kautilya in the form of political science. हम सिर्फ इतना पढ़ते हैं कि कौटिल्य and how Mauryan administration used to function. ठीक है, हम सिर्फ उतना ही पढ़ते हैं. Now, the question is why? Why should we be choosing public administration as an optional? देखो, if you ask me, there is one very simple logic to it. And the logic is that public administration is an optional which has a lot of overlap with general studies. What did I say? Public administration has a lot of overlap with general studies. It has a lot of overlap with general studies. ठीक है? Like, if you look at GS paper 2, if we talk about GS paper 2, in GS paper 2 you have गवर्नेंस एंड पॉलिटी, है ना? आपका कौन कौन से टॉपिक्स हैं? गवर्नेंस एंड पॉलिटी. यस, जीएस पेपर 2 में इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस भी है और सोशल जस्टिस भी है, बट आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट. ये जो पॉलिटी एंड गवर्नेंस का पार्ट है, दिस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट ओवरलैप्स विथ पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. अगर आपने पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पढ़ा है, यू आर वेरी क्लियर अबाउट गवर्नेंस एंड पॉलिटी पार्ट ऑफ योर पेपर 2. लाइक, अगर मैं पिछले स्लाइड में चला जाऊं तो यूनियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में आप जो टॉपिक्स पढ़ते हो, स्टेट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में जो आप टॉपिक्स पढ़ते हो, लोकल बॉडीज में जो आप टॉपिक्स पढ़ते हो, एंड सो ऑन, दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली ओवरलैपिंग विद पॉलिटी. अगर आपने पॉलिटी पढ़ा है, यू नो कि आप यही तो पढ़ते हो ना. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया में आप यूनियन गवर्नमेंट, यूनियन जुडिशरी, यूनियन लेजिस्लेचर, स्टेट लेजिस्लेचर, ये सारी चीजें आप पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पेपर 2 में पढ़ते हो. साथ ही साथ the topics which are there in governance, it completely overlaps with public administration. All the topics, e-governance, pressure group, citizens charter, RTI, all the topics that are there in your paper 2, general studies paper 2, this overlaps with public administration. ठीक है? तो अगर हम सिंपल लॉजिक की बात करें तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन हमारा यहां से ही होना चाहिए कि आप जब पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पढ़ रहे हो तो इसका जनरल स्टडीज में आपको क्या फायदा हो रहा है. ठीक है, जनरल स्टडीज में आपको क्या फायदा हो रहा है, क्योंकि इफ वी आर चूजिंग वन ऑप्शनल which has an overlap with general studies, so what happens as the result of it? What happens as the result of it is that when you are reading your optionals, you are also completing a considerable portion of general studies, है ना? क्योंकि पढ़ना बहुत है. Whenever we talk about preparing for civil services, specifically UPSC examinations, it requires you to study a lot. You have to put in a lot of hard work. तो क्यों ना अगर हम कुछ ऐसी चीजें कर पाए जहां पर अगर हम एक ऐसा ऑप्शनल पेपर चूज कर पाए, where what happens is that if I choose an optional paper where it overlaps with my general studies, तो मेरा एफर्ट एटलीस्ट कम हो जाएगा. एटलीस्ट टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट मेरा जो एफर्ट है जनरल स्टडीज को लेकर वो कम हो जाएगा. एंड यू कैन सी पेपर 2, not just in paper 2, if you take up GS paper 3, so in GS paper 3 you have a topic. The topic is what? Disaster management. Disaster management. Now, जब जीएस पेपर 3 में आप डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट पढ़ते हो, सो देर आर टू एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ दिस डिस्कशन. एक होता है एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एस्पेक्ट, यानी डिजास्टर मैनेज करने के लिए जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव प्रोविजंस है, कौन सा लॉ है, कौन से ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस इन्वॉल्व है, ठीक है, व्हाट इज द रोल ऑफ डिफरेंट लेवल्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, what is the disaster management fund, what is the disaster management force, these things, that is the administrative part. I'm not talking about the disaster part ki kaun se disasters hote hain, nahi, not that. But when it comes to the administrative part, this overlaps with our paper 2. अगर आप पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन पेपर 2 के सिलेबस को देखोगे, then you will find that the last topic that is mentioned is disaster management. That is the last topic that is mentioned as a part of paper 2. Okay, so what you have to understand is that one positive that happens in GS paper 3 is that administrative aspect of disaster management is clear if I have public administration as an optional, because that is what we are reading there as well. And then comes your GS paper 4. Now, GS paper 4 has topics like probity in governance. Probity in governance. So this is a topic which completely overlaps with public administration. It completely overlaps with public administration. So whether it is code of conduct, code of ethics, citizens charter, RTI, all of this is something that you are already reading in public administration. Okay? Not only that, but there is also case study part. There is also a case study part of our discussion in GS paper 4. लेकिन पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में ऐसा कोई केस स्टडीज तो हम नहीं टेकअप करते हैं, बट public administration does give you a good idea as to what a civil servant should perform, what kind of behavior a civil servant should perform when they are in a particular situation. Yani, indirectly, it gives you a very good idea that if you are in a certain situation as a civil servant, what are the important factors and what are the important values that you should be basing your behavior on. यानी अपने behavior को आप कौन सी values और कौन से variables और कौन से factors को ध्यान में रखते हुए उनको implement करोगे, किस तरह का behavior perform करोगे, ये चीज public administration पढ़ने से आपको फायदा हो जाता है. You get a good understanding of it. Clear? So you can see why should we choose public administration as an optional. We should choose public administration as an optional because one very important factor is that public administration gives us a good overlap with general studies. So what happens is that at least to a certain extent the effort that we have to put in general studies, that effort to a certain extent gets curtailed. वो थोड़ा कम हो जाता है, and that becomes a very added advantage with public administration. वो एक काफी important aspect हो जाता है. ठीक है? So whenever we are talking about public administration as an optional, वो चीज आपको एक positive नजर आएगा. ठीक है? Now, यहां पर specifically उन students के लिए जो ऐसे students हैं who are right now in this confusion, whether and what optional should I be choosing. Public administration is more like a default optional for all of you. If you are not very comfortable with the topic that was a part of your degree course when you were in the bachelor's or in your master's degree, public administration does what? Public administration automatically becomes a default optional for you. The reason is public administration एक ऐसा optional है which can be taken up by any individual with any background. If you are a doctor, if you are an engineer, if you are someone who has social sciences as an optional, someone who has never ever studied social science, none of that matters. And you would find that you are very comfortable in reading this particular optional. And that is the reason why you will find for a considerable number of years, public administration was always a default optional for quite a number of individuals. है? बहुत लोग हैं जो पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑप्शनल्स चूज करते हैं और उसका रीजन ही ये है. क्लियर? द रीजन इज प्राइमरली दिस. ओके, तो अगर आप ये चाहते हैं कि आप पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एज एन ऑप्शनल को एक बार चेक करो, गो थ्रू द सिलेबस ऑफ इट एंड यू विल गेट अ गुड आइडिया कि इस ऑप्शनल को पढ़ने से क्या होगा कि आपके जनरल स्टडीज में, और साथ ही साथ क्योंकि आपको जनरल स्टडीज में बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें पढ़नी है जो इस ऑप्शनल से ओवरलैप करता है, तो अगर आप इस चीज को लेकर बहुत श्योर नहीं हो कि आपका ऑप्शनल क्या होना चाहिए, देन यू कैन लुक एट पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन एज वन ऑफ दोज ऑप्शनल्स. ठीक है? एंड रिमेंबर, इट डजंट मैटर व्हाट योर बैकग्राउंड इज. इट डजंट मैटर वेदर यू आर engineer, whether it doesn't matter whether you are a doctor, none of that matters. All individuals from all background could automatically take up this. There would not be a problem. ठीक है? हाँ, yes, it is quite interesting in a lot of sense. And whenever you are choosing an optional, remember this. I'm addressing a question of Meng. He is of the opinion that there is when he was going through the syllabus, he found things which are quite interesting here. And yes, in that sense, आपको ये समझना पड़ेगा कि because you read about Indian administration, you read about functioning of different administrative positions. That is the reason why most of the content that we read here is quite interesting and relatable. हम relate कर पाते हैं कि अच्छा, हाँ, सेक्रेटेरिएट हमें पता है क्या है, ऑफिस ऑफ डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर पता है, सुपरिटेंडेंट ऑफ पुलिस पता है, तो रिलेटेबल हो जाता है. एंड दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई थिंग्स डू व्हाट थिंग्स these things becomes more interesting. Okay, now if we talk about the third part, how. Now, if you are an individual who is seriously thinking about public administration and you are willing to join the course, remember that for you, each and every aspect of the topic would be dealt by me. I would be providing you with the course, any relevant material, everything would be dealt with it in the class itself. Okay, but anyways, if you are as it is thinking about it and you want to start, that is how you start preparing for it. Remember, always start public administration with paper 1. Always start public administration with paper 1. Never ever try and go through paper 2 at the very beginning of your discussion, because when we read it as a part of when we are reading it as a part of our syllabus and we have completed paper 1, the theories etc. that we have read in paper 1 is something that we are going to relate in paper 2 as well. Clear? So if you read paper 1 first, it gives you a good idea and you can use the understanding and analysis of paper 1 in paper 2. Okay, so always start your optional preparation, primarily if you are studying public administration, if you are starting public administration, always start with your paper 1 discussion, never with your paper 2. Okay. Remember that there is a lot of importance that is attached to PYQs. That is the previous year questions that are asked. Now, in the class, whenever we complete a topic, after every topic, we do what? We give at least one class which is primarily to look at the PYQs for the last 5 years. For the last 5 years. So, if you are preparing your optionals, remember that the last 5 years is quite important. And there are lot of chances that most of the questions that are going to appear in the upcoming examination would be related to the last 5 years. You will get a very good idea as to what is being asked from every topic, what are the specific topics which are most of the times asked, what are the important aspects to be dealt with. All of this is hidden in your PYQs. So your PYQ announcement that is there, your PYQ your PYQ discussion that is there, that PYQ discussion is of great importance. It is of great importance, and hence after every topic, even in the class we do that. One class after every topic we dedicate to PYQ discussion. And when you are preparing for this, you should also be focused on this idea that after every important topic that you have read, you will go through the PYQs, you will try and answer those PYQs, and you will get those PYQs corrected so that you have a good understanding of how you are progressing. Okay? Because optional examination is, optional topics that are there, they are, they give you very good score, provided you have analyzed your preparation well. Okay? If you have analyzed your preparation well, you will find that you will get a very, very good, you have a chance of scoring very highly in your optionals. Okay? इसीलिए हर टॉपिक के बाद आपको क्या करना है, हर टॉपिक के बाद PYQs को देखना है, उन PYQs को सॉल्व करना है. क्लास में भी हम ये करते हैं. The answers that you get, you write are corrected, and accordingly you get a feedback as to what, and how you are progressing. Clear? So one thing that you have to focus upon is this. Clear? Now, remember, so paper 1 is where you start, okay? And PYQs are what you very much focus upon. Public administration is an optional which requires a very unique skill. और वो स्किल क्या है? इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. ठीक है? इसीलिए जब प्रिपरेशन आप कर रहे हो तो इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ क्वेश्चंस पर बहुत ज्यादा ध्यान देने की जरूरत है. बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स व्हाट यू विल फाइंड इज दैट द क्वेश्चंस दैट आर आस्क्ड, these questions are statement wise. No, they are asked in the form of statements, and you are told to examine, critically examine, or write about those statements. Okay? So what it requires is that you should have the capability to interpret the statements correctly. If you are if you are in this habit, if you have developed this knack of interpreting the statements correctly, 50% of your paper is already solved. ठीक है? 50% of it is already, 50% of the hard work is already done if you are able to interpret your answers, interpret your questions correctly. Okay? तो एक वो एस्पेक्ट है जो आपको ध्यान रखना है. ठीक है? तो what is public administration? I have already seen. Why you should be choosing public administration is something that you can we have already discussed. How you should be preparing for public administration is also something that we have already talked about. And again, the whole idea of this session was that we would announce a new batch of public administration which is starting very soon. and you can opt, if you are choosing public administration as an optional, you can choose for that very batch, okay, starting by the end of this month itself, in the month of January. Okay, now if you have any questions related to, if you have any questions related to this whole idea, you can ask me. ठीक है, अगर आप public administration related कुछ queries हैं आपके, तो आप पूछ सकते हो. If you have any questions. That is fine, Zulfikar. What you have to no, समझ, आपको जो जिस बात को फोकस करना वो ये है कि आप कितना क्वालिटी प्रिपरेशन करते हो. इट डजेंट मैटर वेदर यू आर वर्किंग एंड यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग. बहुत सारे ऐसे सिविल सर्वेंट्स, तो बहुत सारे ऐसे सक्सेस स्टोरीज हैं जहां पर आप देखोगे पीपल हु आर वर्किंग दे क्वालिफाई दिस वेरी एग्जामिनेशन. Mayank, IGNOU material is something which is going to help you a lot, but it is not something that will help you for every topic. But yes, it's good. You can use that. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you. Thank you.